Well, hello, Entradentists. Angus Pryor here, creator of the Dental Profit System and the co-author of the Kindle-crushing book, the Better Business book. And thank you to my neighbour who's just started using his power tools over the back fence there. You've got to love that, but that's the way that it goes. Now look, what I wanted to do, we're going to spend some time together, and I really want to try and give you as much value as I can in terms of, hey Jeff, understanding how it is to maximize the outcome from your marketing and your dental business. Now, I was at a conference recently and someone challenged me to something, and I realise some of you are going to have to go away and come back to this. They challenged me to do something on Facebook for an hour, and I'm thinking, well, I'm just not going to sit here and frankly talk rubbish for an hour. Hey, David. So instead, I'm going to take you through a curriculum for 1 hour. Hi, Robert. Which will help you. It's like a mini-MBA for marketing. My focus, of course, is dentistry, but if you're in a service-based business, this will apply equally well. And so we'll break it into 4 15-minute slots, do a little bit of stretching, maybe a bit of dancing in between, and wrap it all up in an hour. I'll post it on Facebook, and it will also be going to our YouTube channel, Dental Profit System, so that if I've got a comment from someone who said they wish their MBA took only an hour. Yes, I wish mine did too. I think mine took about 3 or 4 years from memory. So this will be posted to our YouTube channel as well. But what I'm going to do, let's get into it. I'm going to talk about the 4 sections. I've got my trusty whiteboard here. I have an excellent collection of whiteboard markers. If you've got questions while we're going through, by all means, pump those in. If they're pertinent to what we're covering, then I'll cover it there and then. Otherwise, I'll cover it at the end of the section. So there are 4 things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about strategy for your marketing. We're going to talk about your system. We're going to talk about internal marketing, and we're going to talk about external marketing. So let's start with strategy. Strategy. Damn that backwards S. S for strategy. The reason why strategy is so important for your business, if you're in the service-based game, is because otherwise, here's the risk and here's the reality. If you're in business, you are going to have people coming to you all the time. I would say if you're a serious business, a week wouldn't go by where you're going to receive a phone call or get an email or maybe someone come and knock on your door saying, hey, if you're a service-based business, you need to be doing X, Y, and Z. And the reality is if you don't have a strategy in place, then you can just fall for anything. As the song says, you've got to stand for something, otherwise you're going to fall for anything. So getting that strategy in place right up front is really important. The first thing I need to tell you about from a dental point of view is that you really need to be thinking about how it is that you are going to stand out from everyone else. What you absolutely don't want to be is a commodity. Now, do you remember what a commodity is? Assuming I can spell it correctly. A commodity is something that is traded, considered to be equal value. If you look up the textbooks for commodity, they'll talk about things like oil, in a sense. Thank you, Jeff. Yes, he's pointed out that I am writing backwards. Oil's a commodity, grain's a commodity, even the things like, meat, those sort of things where it's it doesn't really matter if I buy from A or B. But as a dentist, you cannot operate that way because, let me put it to you this way, if you're a consumer and a business says to you, Well, actually, we're pretty much the same as everyone around. We're reasonable at what we do, but we're not great. There's nothing particularly different or special about us. Well, why would you deal with that person? And so you can't be the same for your own business. You don't want to be just another one. You actually want to set something up. Now, recently I had a client ask me, they said, can you have a look at our ad in Yellow Pages? And it was pretty scary. I realise as part of my strategy, I haven't really thought about how I'm going to rub this out, but I'll figure it out. So I'm looking through a whole bunch of ads in Yellow Pages, and one after another, this was on the Yellow Pages website. They're all the same as each other. I read about through 6 or 7 to do with dentists. I'm thinking, why would I deal with any of these people? Their claims are all the same. It was, you know, we're friendly. Let's see if I can draw a drill. That's my best impersonation of a drill. You know, we've got good technical skills. Looks a little bit like a snake, doesn't it? There you are. You know, family-owned business. Let's do a picture of a family. And some little ones in the front. To which most people are silently going, who cares? I'm not doing business with you because, you know, the fact is, if you're not friendly, I'm not going to do business with you. But the fact that you are doesn't mean that I'm going to do business with you and not with somebody else. That was a drill. I turned it into a snake. Let's get it back to being a drill. Oh yeah, they've got this tiny little head on the end, don't they? And it probably doesn't go away as sharp as that. You can almost hear the sound. You're going to come and be a client of ours because we're really good with our technical skills. Again, I'd have to say, if your technical skills are not good, you don't get to play in the game. But that is not a reason for someone to choose you. And that we're a family-owned business, yeah, okay, so I get a warm feeling inside for a few moments and then I go, but what's really in it for me? So in terms of your strategy, you don't want to be a commodity. You need to stand out. And the second aspect is, and this is probably the point here, let's do something really bizarre. What if we said, what's something crazy? Come to the dentist at our practice and you get to take home Oop, you got me on the upside down there, haven't you? Sorry about that. In the fine print, that's a jar of Vegemite. So come to us and you can take home a jar of Vegemite. The second part of this, it's got to be about something that people actually care about. And if the only reason I was going to come to you as a dentist is because I get to take home a jar of Vegemite, well, to me, you're offering me nothing. So stand out. You don't want to be a commodity. Be aware being, you know, friendly, good customer service, good technical skills, family-owned business, and going home with a jar of Vegemite. There needs to be things that people value and things that people can evaluate as being different, and those things are not the case. All right, let's rub that out. Now, the other thing that I need to mention, this is good, is the one question that people are often asking me about is, well, what is it that I am and am not allowed to do in Australia? Hey, DJ. So we have this groovy thing in Australia. Called APRA. And APRA's set up for a whole bunch of healthcare professionals, and their job is to make sure that you behave yourself. And what that means is they put some rules around what you are and you're not allowed to do. Now, the fact is I'm a former bureaucrat. I spent 20 years in government, so I believe I've got a pretty decent understanding of how government works and the thinking behind the sort of stuff like this. The reason there are restrictions around what healthcare professionals are allowed to do in Australia is because if you're the treasurer of Australia, well, firstly, because we've got a public health system. Now, of course, not all dentistry is included, but for some people it is. If you're the treasurer, then you do not want people spending money unnecessarily. In fact, this is the challenge that we have in Australia and a lot of Western countries. We have this many people of this size, and assuming that size means age, we have this many people of this size. What am I trying to say there? Australia has an ageing population, and so therefore the healthcare budget is under pressure. So if you're the treasurer, so you've got more and more old people and not so many young people. And the nice thing about young people, of course, is they pay tax. But once you're older and you're retired, you're not paying tax. And so therefore, that ratio of people who are using the healthcare system versus the taxpayers gets worse, and the government therefore doesn't want people using these services unnecessarily. So yes, there are rules with APRA, but APRA has thrown together a whole bunch of healthcare professionals, not just dentists, under that heading, and they set a sort of a one policy fits all. However, just because that APRA policy exists doesn't mean that you can't do stuff. For example, there's absolutely nothing wrong having competitions, having offers, having specials, having deals, as long as one of their main requirements is you've got to have your terms and conditions. As long as you describe what the terms and conditions are, there's no problem with having competitions. One area that you've got to watch out for is testimonials, and that's one thing they're quite thingy on. Those darn S's, they get me every time. I challenge you to do this one time. Come and do this with I'm doing it on Facebook Live, which is why everything's back to front. So testimonials are definitely a no-no. You're not to use those in Australia. Finally, if you're not a specialist, then you can't describe yourself as being a specialist. But, you can use other words. You can use other words to describe that without actually saying you're a specialist. You can say, highly experienced. Anything you can say that's factual, highly experienced, I see a lot of cases, whatever, that's no problem. Saying you're a specialist if you don't have a specialist qualification is a problem. So, if you remember strategy, you don't want to be a commodity. Yes, APRA's in place. We know why, because there's more older people, there's less young ones. But as long as you've got terms and conditions, if you run a competition, don't be using testimonials. Don't describe yourself as a specialist if you're not. So there's plenty you can do inside the rules. I guess that's the main message there. All right, next part of strategy. I always like to try and start with the end in mind, the famous words from Mr. Stephen Covey of the 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. Start with the end in mind. I need to introduce you to someone. That person there is the avatar for your practice. Hey, Mark. And when we say avatar, the avatar is essentially your ideal client. And whatever the business is that you have an avatar. We'll talk about how to figure out who your avatar is, but first I want to tell you why we care about avatars. Whatever it is that you're selling, the more closely you can identify who this avatar is, the more effectively you can market to them and the more that they're going to buy from you. And I need to tell you one of the reasons why people get nervous about avatars. Run out of space. One of the reasons people get nervous about avatars, they go, well, if I'm focusing all of my attention on that person, then what about this person over here? This is the reality. If you look at big business, they've spent a fortune on market research. They want to know exactly who it is that are their clients and who's going to buy from them. And so they build up a profile of who their avatar is, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then all of their marketing is with that person in mind. And that is what I want you to do with your business. Figure out who your avatar is. and all of your marketing with that person in mind. But here's the thing, you're thinking, but if I promote to them, what about this guy? Take Mercedes-Benz. They make nice cars. Mercedes, I can tell you, any big business, they'd have spent a fortune figuring out who their avatar is. Now, I live in Sydney, so you'd be thinking, well, if they're a Mercedes owner, then, you know, a potential buyer, they're probably someone with a university degree, one would imagine, probably higher income, probably white collar, you know, a certain age, probably more men than women, etc., etc. But let me ask you a question. Does that mean, so therefore you're thinking in Sydney, that'll be the eastern suburbs in Melbourne as well. I guess I could do a tour of Australia. The more affluent areas, you get the idea. Does that mean that nobody outside of the eastern suburbs buys Mercedes? And the answer is, of course not. I mean, there will be a handful of people in Blacktown that will have Mercedes. There'll be people in Campbelltown, some of the lower areas that will have them as well. And the reason why is because sometimes what they're buying from you is not just what you deliver, but also what they aspire to. So I can tell you time and time again, working out who your avatar is net will improve sales, not reduce sales. Even though you're thinking this guy is going to miss out, the numbers and the data shows that's not the case. People buy outside their avatar. I mean, to give you an idea, one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to is for women. Now, I'm clearly not a woman, but the fact is I really enjoy it. So just because you're focusing on them doesn't mean that a net you're going to miss out. So the second thing I want to say about avatars is that you already have an avatar. The way your business is running means that there is a certain group of people that have already, you know, they like doing business with you. Now you have two questions. One is figure out who that is, and secondly, decide if that's who you want to be your avatar. And the way that you calculate it is hopefully you've got some form of software, and you run a report of all of your clients. And what I do is you sort them from high to low based on what they spend with you in a 12-month period. That's the dollar sign. There's my backwards S again. And then what you do is you go through this list, and if there's some clients who maybe spend a lot of money with you, but you don't, you know, they don't pass the likability test, you can cross them off. And you'll end up with your top, I don't know, 20, 30 clients. Thanks, Laura. Thanks for the thumbs up. Then you work out what are the common characteristics of those people. Is it their age? Are they, let me see. Oops, there we go. You know, are they that sort of age? Are they that sort of, oops, there we go again. This is really quite hard. Are they that kind of age? So they have an age. Is it a gender thing? Are they, what are their interests? What suburbs do they live in? And you can use all of that to figure out where your avatar is. And then the next aspect is get yourself across to avatarmaker.com and actually make a picture of them. So you can visualize, is it a male, is it a female? How old are they? Dare I say, what color is their skin? You know, you never know from where you're living. You know, do they have glasses? Are they looking sort of trendy and young? Are they looking a bit more traditional? And then every time you do any marketing at all, and give them a name. Let's imagine for my business, and I'll just make this up, my avatar is called Jim. And so every time I do any marketing at all, I'm thinking, how does this appeal to Jim? How does this appeal to my avatar? All right, the third thing that you want to be thinking about as part of your strategy, we don't want to be a commodity. We want to stand out. There are some rules, but you can work around them. We've figured out who our avatar is. And the last part under strategy is what is known sometimes as USP, or sometimes known as a value proposition. And this is, what is it? We know, we've got Jim. What are the things that my business can offer to be attractive to Jim? And that's a process of trying to look through their eyes, think about the things that they value most, and then how do you describe it. And as a rule of thumb, there's really only 3 ways. I might do it over here. We've got P for product. I have to look at my notes here. We've got O for offer. And then we've got G for guarantee. I guess POG. That was a term I used when I was a young man. And it wasn't an awesome term. It was, anyway, POG. So product, offer, or guarantee. What is a way that you can describe to Jim what it is that you offer, describe it in terms of a product, an offer, or a guarantee? Now, in terms of a product, it's basically what's the benefit you get of dealing from you. You know, come and be a patient of X, Y, and Z, XYZ dental, and, you know, you'll get, I don't know, a brighter smile or whatever. You know, it's some kind of outcome that they get from dealing with you. If you're thinking about O for an offer, this is do this, get that. You know, I don't know, come and join our membership program and you get 20% off. So that's, you know, that's an offer, do this, get that. And then guarantees can work very well in dentistry. And guarantee is if we don't do X, you'll get Y. Now, as a case in point, a client that I've been talking to through no involvement of me at all, they said to me on one of our first calls, they were like, one of the things we do here is we actually measure how on time we are. We've been measuring it for years, and we know that we start the appointment within 1 minute of the start time, 97% of the time. And I'm going, hello, what an opportunity for a value proposition or a unique selling proposition. So their guarantee could be, if we keep you waiting for more than 5 minutes, you know, we'll take $50 off your bill. And so for people who are busy, like my wife, she'd be a client in a minute. She hates waiting for healthcare professionals. So she goes, oh, go and be a client of this dentist. Their guarantee is if they keep you waiting, they take $50 off your bill. All right, so that's it for strategy. Remember, you don't want to be a commodity. You want to stand out. There are some rules from APRA, but as long as you play inside the rules, you can still do a whole bunch of stuff from a marketing point of view. Figure out who your avatar is. In this case, it's Jim. And then work out what Jim wants and express it in terms of a product, an offer, or a guarantee. So that's the strategy part. All right, time for a little stretch. If you're sitting down watching this, particularly if you're watching this on YouTube, then a little shake of the shoulders, stretch a bit, maybe touch the sky. That's good. I'm going to get a little drink. And then we're going to move on to our second section. Here we go. All right, let's get rid of all that. Part 2. It's another S. And the next part that we want to be looking at is system. Because strategy is good, and we're going to do some implementing, but one of the challenges with marketing is that you, oh gosh, every time. They're so hard to do, apparently. System, apologies for my handwriting. Backwards S. One of the challenges with marketing is, oh gosh, what was I drinking? Yes, I've just had some feedback on POG. Tell me actually, look, when I was a kid, a POG was a mix between a pig and a dog, so it wasn't a very nice thing to say anyway, but in this instance, this is a good thing. That's not a good M. Now, in relation to system then, so we've got your strategy in place, you're now looking at your system. One of the things that I want to do right at the get-go with that is to work out the value of your patients. And I've come up with a metric. I used to talk about in terms of patients. I actually prefer the term client, to be honest. I don't know what you're thinking, hey, Bowder. But in my mind, kind of, here's the patient, and here's the healthcare professional. When I think about a client, I'm thinking about here's the service provider and here's the client. Are we saying the client's always right? No, but I think in a really competitive marketplace, I prefer to think of people as being clients, they're above, we're serving them, rather than patients, which is kind of, where the patient is subservient to the healthcare professional. Anyway, that's just a perspective from me. ACV, average client value. As part of your system, it's really important to know, once you're starting to get into your marketing activities, what is the return you're going to get from each new client that comes into your business? Now, the way to work this out is to run a report fairly similar to the report that you ran for your avatar, but we're going to use a slightly different number. So again, you imagine you run a report which has got all of your clients over a 12-month period, from the biggest spender to the lowest spender, from high to low. That part's pretty easy. The second part you're going to do is work out how many clients it was that you served in the last 12 months. And let's say it's 1,000. Okay, so you've served 1,000 clients in the last 12 months. You've sorted this from the highest spender to the lowest spender. What we want to identify is this figure here. So you'd sort them from high to low. You'd need to find out how many of them there were, and then you'd find out in this instance what was the amount to the patient number 500. There we are. Even I said patient, client number 500. Because if you know that, that information is so valuable. And to just try and help you understand that a little bit better, I want to give you a little demonstration. This is a way of knowing before you start what the return is when you're spending your marketing dollar. Now, here we have a $2 coin. You can see that okay, an Australian $2 coin. And I want you to imagine in your marketing context that you know what your average client value is. So you offer that $2 coin to the marketplace. And because you know what that value place is, this is what the market does. There's 20 Australian dollars, and it pays you back because you already know that if I spend a certain amount of money, on average, they're going to spend this amount of money with me. Now, I've done this a lot of times in recent years, and I can tell you that in Australian dental practices, the average client value, coincidentally, happens to be somewhere between $500 and $1,000. That means for every new patient on average that comes and becomes a client of yours, they're going to spend between $500 and $1,000 in the first year. And like my little demonstration, well, if you know they're going to spend $500 with you in the first year, wouldn't you be happy to spend $20, $50 to attract them? I mean, that's a no-lose game. So that's why that ACV is really important. Now, the second thing that we want to look at is you've got your ACV, that's good. The second thing is looking at where are your clients coming from. And most practices that I deal with, they will probably know the number of new clients that they've got, but they may not know exactly where they're coming from. And there's two aspects that you need to pick this up. The first is that people who actually make an appointment, and that might be from, let's do I for the internet. That's pretty general. Let's imagine that's Google. That might be website. Let's do Google there. You might have signage, like that. Signage, and then maybe W for word of mouth. So that information is really helpful for when people actually make an appointment, but there's a second measure that I want to know. I want to know that same data for when people contact you. So when they call, whether they make an appointment or not, where they hear about you from, and gathering that data is really important. And as part of your system, you've got your strategy. Now you've got your system, you know what your average client value is. You also want to know where they're coming from. Why? Because if this one's working well, then that's a great opportunity to potentially bump that up and spend some more money there. On the other hand, if this one, that sliver is very narrow, then either you've got to change something, it might be that little part there. You've either got to change something or maybe you kill it off altogether. Now, to give you an idea, I had a client that I was working with who was on a main road in Sydney. I would imagine they'd have had maybe 10,000 cars a day driving by them, 10,000 cars a day. We did this measurement on inquiries, and in a 3-month period, not a single new client came from signage. Now, I can tell you, I've got clients where 40% of their patient inquiries come from signage. So to be on a main road and not getting a single client inquiry tells me something very wrong going on there. Similarly, I've had another client who was advertising in a magazine. We've got 2 W's there. And they didn't get a single client inquiry from that magazine, even though they've been spending that money month after month. So that's why we want to do that. The third thing that I want to do as part of this exercise, we've got our average client value. We're monitoring where the calls are coming from. I want to know the time and date of each call, and most importantly, did that inquiry turn into an appointment? Yes or no? I wrote an article some time back looking at the fastest way to kill your marketing, and I can tell you it's the telephone. You could have fantastic strategy. You could have all of these kind of activities going on, and we'll come to those a bit later on. But if when the phone is picked up, your practice is not successfully converting inquiries into appointments, then you can kill the whole system in one foul swoop, and that would be a tragedy. So as part of your system, know average client value, know the sources where people are coming from, but you also want to be measuring the conversions. I mean, to give you an idea, let's actually look at some numbers here. Imagine that you're in a practice where your average client value is $1,000. Now let's say, I don't think this is particularly busy. If you had a practice where they were getting 10 calls a week from new clients, and let's say that you have 2 scenarios here. It's a 50% call conversion for re-inquiry, half of them are being converted, and let's say, just for round numbers, we'll make it 100%. I know I've yet to come across a practice that's converting at 100%, but I can tell you I've come across a whole bunch that are converting at 90%. So they spend $1,000 a year, 10 calls a week, converting at 50%. So therefore, in the next 12 months, 1,000 times 10 a week is 10,000. But only half of them convert. So that's 5,000. And then we've got to multiply that by 52 weeks in the year. Let's call it 50, just because you're allowed to have some time off, aren't you? So this is if your average client value is $1,000, you've got 10 calls a week, and you're converting at 50%. We've done the maths there. Only half of them convert. That's the dollars. They convert at 50%. You're thinking, this is pretty good. So that's the business that's being brought in by those guys, 250K. 250, yeah. You're thinking, woohoo, that's an extra 250,000 being brought into my business. It's woohoo for a moment until you realize that if you had that conversion going from 50% to 100%, and all of the other factors are exactly the same, you end up with what you could have had, which of course is 500,000. So that's potentially in that scenario, and look, 10 calls a week from new patients. I've got clients that are getting 40, 50, 60 calls a week. I'm just talking about 10. That's $250,000 a year you are leaving on the table by not converting those inquiries effectively into appointments. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're going to make it to 100%, but I can tell you we work with a bunch of clients who start at 50%, and we could easily get them to 70 or 80%. So, it's a big deal for sure. All right, so that's system. Average client value. Know your sources. Track your conversions. Yes or no. Did that call actually end up making an appointment? Because the difference at the end of the year can be staggering. So that's really important. Well, that's the end of system. So we've done strategy, we've done system. Time for a little stretch. If you're watching me either on Facebook or you're watching me on YouTube, then a little stretch out to the side. If you're sitting down, stand up, have a bit of a stretch. I'm going to have a drink of water. And let's get on to part 3. So strategy, system, part 3. I know what you're thinking at this point. You're thinking, come on, Angus, it's time to get into the tactics. I want to know what's the one silver bullet that's going to get my phone ringing faster than ever. Okay, let's have a look. So, part 3. Yeah, you can sort of see it's a little bit bright there. Let's do that there. Yeah, internal marketing. Really important. Look, I've seen different studies on this, but to give you an idea, some of the studies suggest that the cost of bringing in new clients versus servicing existing clients can be as much as 6 times higher. Think about that for a second. So let's say it costs your business, $100 a year to service existing clients, and they're going to spend $1,000 with you. Well, the cost of bringing in that new client could be 6 times that. Could be $600. Now, maybe those figures are different, but that ratio is pretty tragic, which is why having internal marketing working effectively is so important. Because from a business point of view, there's really only 3 ways that you can grow your business. You can have more clients, etc., etc., etc. You can have those clients spending more money each visit. It's pretty self-evident. Or you can have them visiting more often. All I can think to do is to draw a car, because that's more car trips to your business. I agree. Not my best work on the car, but you get the idea. So the only way to grow your business is to have more clients, get them spending more money each time, or get them visiting more often. That's the reality. Well, what if we focus on this one? That's your internal marketing, which is getting them to spend more money on each visit or getting them to visit more often. And as we've said, it can be 6 times more expensive to bring in new ones than service the ones that you've got. So the one thing that I would start with here is possibly the lowest hanging fruit. I just need to remind myself. Yes, it does. It's one of those things when you're writing stuff on a whiteboard, sometimes you forget about spelling. Referral marketing. Oh my goodness. I would say you've got to start with strategy. That's critical. You need a system in place, but the next thing I would be doing is having a referral system. Because we want to be doing internal marketing, but the easiest way to get new clients is to have existing clients promoting your business to their friends and associates. I mean, think about it. If you are looking for a new whatever, one of the things you're going to do is actually ask your friends and family. I got a new client that came to me recently, and for people in my space, this is something you dream about, where they say, hey, look, I was speaking to so-and-so, they already do business with you, they recommend it, you don't need to do any selling at all to me, you know, I don't even really have a budget, you convince me and I'm going to spend it. And I'm like, really? This is a dream come true. But that's the power of referral marketing. So having some kind of referral system in place is absolutely critical. Now, the reason, I guess you could argue it's external, is it internal? I don't know, that's a bit of a debate. There's really only two ways you can do it. You can have a big smiley face, that's one way of doing it. Or you can have, how are we going to do this? So the two models that you can use for a referral system, the first is that where someone refers someone to you, that you send them a thank you. At a bare minimum, you should be sending them a card saying thank you so much. Even better than that, I'd probably send them a gift card as well. Try to steer clear of sending them something dental related. I think that's a little bit self-serving, to be quite honest. I'm sorry, that N is annoying me. There we are, internal marketing. But certainly saying thanks after the event, that's something that can work really well. And you want to reinforce that behaviour. It reinforces the fact that they're a good client, and it's like, hey, yeah, I do actually do quite a bit of business with that dentist, but also that you can say thanks after that. That one's pretty good system. This one's an even better system, where you have a formalised referral system so that people know if they refer, there's a chance to get a reward. Now, you might have something at the time where they might get, you know, movie tickets or whatever. I don't mind that. Some kind of immediate gratification is quite good. I don't really like giving gift cards, to be honest. Sort of refer and get a gift card. I prefer something that allows them to spend something on themselves. But the other thing you can do is have it go into a competition and give away something good, non-dental. I've got clients that do stuff like a night out, technology, you know, someone's giving away an Apple Watch at the moment, that sort of thing. That kind of system, brilliant internal marketing. All right, that's that one. Let's have a look at the next form of internal marketing, remembering how important it is to keep those guys engaged. Now, I need to tell you about a little expression. Before I got into dental marketing, I did quite a bit of work in the direct marketing space. And there was a little phrase that I'd like to introduce you to. I'll just write out the last word. They used to say in direct marketing circles, the money's in the list. And what that meant is you do all this work to bring people in, but it's that list, and in particular email, that is the most valuable thing. And even though you're a dentist, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from emailing your clients. Now, if you remember back to my little picture, which I probably shouldn't have rubbed out, basically all you can do is you can have more people to grow your business. They can come more often. Oh, that was the picture of the car down here, wasn't it? There's the car, come more often, or they can spend more money. By emailing them, we've got a chance to get them to spend more money or to come more often. And there's really no reason why you can't do it. You've collected their email. You set up a system where there's easy opt-out for whatever reason they don't want to do that. But the main thing about your email marketing is you've got to think from the client's point of view. What would they want? So you could use your email, for example, for a piece of equipment. Only if you can describe it in terms of what they would get from it. For example, we've got a new CEREC machine, which means if you need a crown, then you could get it all sorted on the same day, and you feel more confident eating and so on. As long as you describe it in terms of the result, no problem. Whitening, no-brainer via email. This time of year, you're going to be meeting friends and family that people you haven't seen for a year. In just a short period of time in December. and you know that you want to be looking your best, use that as an opportunity. So that's that in terms of that. And, if I can say, don't be boring. Think about how you can make that message as interesting as possible, not just kind of product, but actually what's the result. That's the most important thing there. So, internal marketing, you've got your referral systems, you've got your email. Remember, the money's in the list. The third one that we want to look at is the physical environment. I might even leave those little pictures there. I've got a question for you if you're watching this. Thank you for the thumbs up. How many of you got one of those in your waiting room? Hopefully you can figure that's a TV. I'm hoping the answer is most. And from the point of view of TV, it can be a really brilliant tool for internal marketing, because a bunch of your clients, let's face it, they're only going to come and see you a couple of times a year. And so therefore, you might as well maximize the opportunity in terms of the messaging that you deliver to them. The most effective tool that I've seen in terms of TV, it must be that way. Oops, get in there. That's a D, by the way. There's something called Channel D, which is it's a service that you purchase, but it's the most effective system I've seen for marketing to your clients in the waiting room. It's very non-salesy, it's kind of fun, it's animated, it's none of these sort of technical, pictures of an implant sort of going in or whatever. But nevertheless, the thing that I love about this system, and you can look it up afterwards, channeld.com. I don't have any vested interest, I'm not a shareholder or anything, but it's the best system that I've seen, is that this system gets patients asking, there we are, I said patients again, gets clients asking for services that you offer without you having to recommend it to them. So that would be another form of internal marketing. And then the other one that I have not seen used, and yet I know that it absolutely can. Is the old ask me how. Now you're thinking you're professional services and you want to maintain a certain standard, and I get that. But the reality is having something on your shirt, whether it's a badge or a button or embroidered or something, can make a massive difference and be a very effective form of internal marketing. Now, to give you an indication, the inspiration for this, at one point I worked in pharmacy and with GPs, and I was talking to the brand manager of a very, very well-known over-the-counter drug in Australia. If I said it to you, I would say 95% of you would have heard of it before. And what they managed to do with a number of pharmacies was just on a Friday, they would get the entire pharmacy staff, they provided them with a set of shirts, and they had the name of the product embroidered here. It was really subtle. There wasn't any great selling message. It just had the name of that. So let's say, for example, at the pharmacy, the uniform was pink. These shirts were black, and then it had the name of the product there. They weren't wearing jackets like I am. And the interesting thing was, just by having that, they had an uplift in the sale of that product every Friday. Now, maybe it was because the staff saw it on each other. They go, oh, that's right, it's, blah, 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 Friday. And they were sort of more drawn to talk about it. Maybe it was subliminally that the clients would see it and they would be more likely to ask for it. But every Friday, just them wearing the shirts with the name of that product on it sold more of that product. Now, you could, there's a friend of mine, the practice they did it, they had badges that related to whitening. And you could be, you could have something like, want a brighter smile, ask me how. You could do that on a badge. I mean, what are we talking about from an investment point of view for a set of 5 badges for the office? $50? How many sets of whitening do you need to use to pay for that? The main message I want to make about this is it can be done tastefully. It doesn't have to be sort of real salesy. You could have new year, new look, question mark. All you want is something that's going to cause clients to go, oh, what's that about? Once they ask the question, you've piqued their curiosity. It's a great way to, do quite effective internal marketing. All right, so internal marketing, patient referral system, email marketing, and then your physical environment, whether it's your TV, your posters, whatever the case may be, and what you're actually wearing on your person. If you're sitting down, time to stand up. We're into part 4 and we're almost done. I'm going to get a drink because it is a little bit, dries you out a little bit. That's internal marketing, where you can probably figure what the last one's going to be. INT goes. We replace that with an EXT. It is, of course, external marketing. And let's be really honest here. When I'm talking to clients in relation to marketing, mostly what they're thinking, the cat's just walked in. Is that a sign? I don't know. Pepper, do you want to be picked up? Probably not. Yeah. There we are. There's Pepper. Your first time on TV, eh? Yeah, it doesn't seem that interested. That's cats for you. All right. Mostly when I'm talking to dentists, they just want to go straight to, oh, come on, Angus, what's the latest external marketing thing that we can use? But you've got to really position this in terms of strategy, systems, internal marketing, and then external marketing. And that's where it should sit. Okay, let me ask you a question. Actually, I've got a statement for you. Have you ever thought about the fact that there is a non-competing business near you that already has a trusting relationship with a group of people that would be your ideal client? A business near you, they're not competing and they've already built up that trusting relationship. Remember, 6 times more expensive to bring in external people than to service your internal people. And part of that is about trust and building that trust. But there's another business that's already got that relationship with your clients. And so again, we go back to referrals, but this time, let's try that again. Like that. I don't know how to spell it this time. That's good. And business referrals. I suppose I should get rid of that. Someone else has already got a relationship with your ideal client, and the only thing stopping you from accessing that is actually contacting these people. It's such a simple system, and I would say not one dentist in 100 would do it effectively. So how do you do it? You go and approach them. Thanks for the thumbs up, by the way. You go and approach them and you say, and it's really having an open mind and saying, how can we help each other? That's really the message that you want to bring through there. And I can tell you, having done this with a bunch of my clients, that going and having that conversation, you say, first of all, you want to be very quickly identify that you're a neighbour, you're not a salesperson. Say, look, let's chat because there must be a way that we can help each other. I've had clients where they set up brochures for each other's business, they set up offers. I had a dentist, we went and spoke to a physio, and the physio said, you know what, I'd really love you to come and talk about TMJ to my staff. I've got 10 physios. Can you imagine having that face-to-face time with 10 potential referral sources? So that's a really important one. The big G, Google. Now look, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because the fact is I'm getting towards the end of my hour. But Google is a place that you've got to really be on top of. In fact, there's a reminder for my next meeting. And in that particular, I guess one of the main messages you need to be aware of there is that Google is actually 4 different systems. If that's messing with your head, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. You've got your AdWords, let's do that. You've got your map. You've got your Google My Business. you know, where you put your photos and your opening hours and so on. And then I guess I'll put O for organic. And those systems operate sort of together, but actually quite independently of each other. And I think the main message that I want to get to you is that you really got to try and be strong in all of those. This is the slow and steady wins the race, the old organic. Google My Business, make sure you've got your photos in there, make sure you're getting your reviews boosted. With the map, interestingly, the data from here, the Google My Business is what appears on the map, but it's the SEO which you use to boost your organic, which causes you to appear nice and high on the map, and then you've got your AdWords, which you've got to pay for. So I think the real message there in relation to Google is just be aware there are multiple systems, and the most common mistake I'd see is I talk to dentists and I say, how are you doing in relation to one of those? And they go, oh yeah, we've got Google covered, but often what happens is they're doing that, but they've got nothing going here and maybe they're not optimized here. The final point that I want to mention as part of the external marketing, I think I've got space for it here, is Facebook. Because I would say, while Google has been very effective, one of the things that's happening with Google is it is an auction, and the cost of competing in that space is higher than probably it's ever been. Oops. Here we are. Now, let's get that right. And so therefore, Facebook is probably where Google was a few years ago. You can use it quite effectively to target clients, and it's not as expensive as it used to be. The main thing that I want you to remember there in relation to your Facebook ads, let's get that right, hopefully I can do this correctly. Is that what you're doing on Facebook is you're interrupting clients. With Google, they've come looking for you. They've typed in implants or dentist near me or whatever. With Facebook, you're actually interrupting them, and therefore that changes the kind of way that you reach out to them. If you're on Facebook, you're there for social purposes, aren't you? Well, if you're there for social, you're not kind of going, oh, by the way, I need to go to the dentist. That's generally not the way that it's working. We're doing quite a lot of work in Facebook, and we find the things that are working really well is things like competitions, because it's kind of, you're there for social purposes. And if there's a chance to, win some free whitening, it's like, oh, sure, I'm up for that. That's definitely something that you might be thinking about. So it's competitions. The other one that can work quite well as a bit of a lead-in, it must be that way, is quizzes. And again, you're there for kind of social purposes, get the engagement through this, and then have an offer at the end there. Rightio, well, let's summarise then. So if you can remember going right back to the beginning, start with your strategy. That's the first point, and hopefully gets me every time. Get that strategy the right way around. Get your strategy in place, stand out from the pack. You cannot afford to be like everybody else, otherwise people won't choose you. The second part is, and I'm going to get it right this time, have a system in place for measuring, for capturing, know what your metrics are. Then you want to go to your internal marketing. We talked about having referral systems, email marketing, what you're using inside the practice. If you're using your telly, posters or whatever, are you using stuff on your person? And then finally, external marketing. We've talked about the different systems there. I just would say often people want to go straight to the external stuff, but if they haven't got these other fixed up, then you're wasting your time. If you don't have your strategy in place, it's like having your ladder up against the wrong wall. You climb up to the top of it. Oops, oh yes, I made it to the top, but unfortunately I didn't get the result I was looking for. Rightio, well, there we are. So that is a 1 hour dental marketing mini MBA. As someone rightly pointed out at the start of this presentation, that's a lot faster 1 hour than what a real MBA takes. Mine took about 4 years. If you want some more information, if I've triggered some things which you want to ask about, get across to dentalprofitsystem.com, send me a message, and I'll do my best to come back and answer you. Otherwise, for this week, my first ever challenge accepted, challenge achieved, which is a 1 hour Facebook Live, 1 hour dental mini marketing MBA. Otherwise, Angus Pryor from Dental Profit System signing off. See you next time.